when you begin to talk with yourself and listen to yourself, you will notice that there's a lot of things you do not like. As a matter of fact, you are inclined again and again to have disembodied language, and that means that you forget to listen to yourself while you speak. And every time that you are again listening to yourself, you realize that before you were just having disembodied language. So your conditioning history is, of course, with disembodied language. You have no conditioning history with embodied language. Yeah. You have experienced at best a couple of good moments in your life in which people were peaceful and pleasant and, positive. And of course, whenever they were, getting along with each other, their way of talking was matching that experience. But you know as well as I do that way of talking in which we feel good with each other, in which we feel peaceful with each other, in which we are, understanding each other and we're on the same page, that way of talking doesn't persist. That way of talking is very brief and unknown. We do not know how to have that way of talking. So that way of talking is the way of talking in which we listen to ourselves while we speak. And we don't know that it has to do with that. We keep making it seem as if it is having something to do with what somebody else does, but it is something that we ourselves do. Yeah. And so when you begin to listen to yourself and speak with yourself so that you can hear yourself, you hear again and again that you don't listen to yourself. You realize again and again, like, wow, so that is how that is. I never listen to myself. And so when you begin to do this, you are going to notice that. Yeah, good morning. And so the question then is, how does one get back to listening to yourself? Yeah, I mean, of course, you can spend hours talking with yourself and still not listening to yourself. By the way, that won't happen, because talking with yourself is so annoying and so irritating, and so it feels so negative when you're not listening to yourself. So you will stop talking with yourself basically when that happens. So, and then you will most likely give up on talking with yourself or listening to yourself. Yeah, because if you do not do it, how are you supposed to get it when you don't do it? Yeah, you have given up on talking with yourself. You have given up on listening to yourself. You have given up on yourself, basically. That's why you talk the way you do. You don't listen to yourself in your usual way of talking because you have given up on yourself. You don't even realize this. So, again, when you do what I ask you to do, in 2025, these last couple of months of this year, if you just sit by yourself, like I'm here right now, I'm sitting here on a little park bench in the park, and occasionally somebody passes by, but I'm just sitting here with my phone in my hand, and you could be doing exactly the same. You could sit with yourself and talk out loud with yourself in a place where nobody disturbs you, where you're just on your own, and you can just listen to yourself. Now, I predict that when you do that, of course, there's a natural environment that supports you, so there's nobody here to bother me. So that's already a plus. It makes it easier to listen to myself. But of course, I have my conditioning history, you have your conditioning history, and you have to face that history. You have to acknowledge that, oh my goodness, I I would like to listen to myself, but somehow I don't. Now, in order to get back on track again with your embodied language in which you listen to yourself, I suggest the following. You just talk about whatever catches your attention. So I just saw some bicyclist pass by and I nodded to him. He nodded to me. Yeah. So I hear cars passing by occasionally. There's a lady with a dog that is approaching. I hear a bird squeak in the tree. Yeah. And there's a slight little breeze and it is kind of cloudy out there today, which is kind of nice. Good morning. And so I let my attention jump from something that I see, something that I hear, and also, of course, in your case, because you still believe that you have inner language, so you still believe that you have thoughts. So I would also like you to pay attention to your thoughts and just say whatever it is that you believe to be thinking. Just say to yourself, like, okay, now I'm thinking that. You know, you're not thinking, good morning, you're not thinking anything, you're just saying what you're capable of saying. And in this moment, because you are trying to listen to yourself, you are actually giving yourself the opportunity to say what you want to say. You give yourself the permission to use your language in such a way that you hear yourself. Yeah. So you can talk about what you think or what you remember or what you associate, or whatever it is that you are feeling, or that you, all of a sudden some connection is made and you are reminded of a particular episode, a particular situation. You can talk about anything you like. You can talk about anything that is in your attention. So what I'm saying here is, and I've done this, and you hopefully are going to do this too, you are going to express anything that is in your attention, anything. So maybe you feel an itchy feeling on your leg, that can happen, because sometimes there's mosquitoes. I hope they're not, but luckily today, because it's a little bit windy and it's cloudy and it is cooler, there's not that many mosquitoes out. But I still felt a little itch, and now I'm feeling it itching on my nose, and I scratch my nose and I smile and I look at myself and I feel good that I express that. So I let my attention determine what I'm saying. I hear a car drive by. I feel a little bit sore butt because I've just been riding my bicycle for quite a long time, and now I'm sitting on a park bench. But it is kind of nice because I don't feel so much pressure at this moment, because when you ride your bicycle you sit a little bit leaning over. I don't know, this is my bicycle. It is kind of one of those bikes where you do lean a little bit over. On Dutch bikes you see it's more straight actually, but here this one is a little bit more bent forward. And of course it is also kind of like a little bit of a mountain bike, if you want to call it that, although I do not do any kind of dangerous trips on these trails. I do go on dirt paths once in a while, and also on paths that sort of just go up and down a little bit. I like that a lot. Anyways, I'm explaining to you how you can, with your language, continuously express what is in the moment, what is happening right now. Where is your attention going? Maybe you have a sad feeling, a sad feeling about a memory or something, something, a nostalgic feeling or something like that. Yesterday night I looked at some pictures of things that people used in the 60s and in the 70s, and now these things have all just gone out of style, and these items, how people used to have their household and the kind of tools that they used and the kind of, stuff for cooking and heating of their house and the kind of furniture they had. That kind of brings back memories, right? And so yesterday when I was looking at this picture, it triggered some sort of a nostalgic feeling. And it was really interesting because as I was done, I was only awake for a little while, and I looked at some of these pictures, and then I fell back asleep again. But as I lay myself back in my bed again, I just allowed myself to remember as much as I could, from how I grew up and how it used to be. And I just said to myself, okay, let's just go into this feeling of how it was and how it is no more. Because there were also all kinds of people that had put little messages like, how it used to be, and it was so nice to have that. And children were at a certain playground, and I used to also play in similar kind of playground, and people had all kind of games that they were playing. They were always out on the street, and I played a lot on the street as a kid, and it was really fortunate that I grew up that way. And then when the street lights went on, then we were having to come home for dinner. Anyway, I'm just letting you know that you can speak in such a way that you can express what is in your attention, and whatever asks your attention, whatever is in your attention, you can just say it in your own words, in your own rhythm. And you don't do anything to change it. You don't do anything to push it but you find that you are inclined to do that. You find that you are trying to make up some story, or you find that you're saying things that you kind of disagree with yourself, perhaps, or it is different than how you say, or you kind of do not know. You say something, but you say something for the sake of saying it, but do you really know what went on and why it was that way? Sometimes you have opinions about things, and you sort of just catch yourself saying like, is that really true, what I believe? And then maybe you ask yourself a question, you answer that question, and you go on from there. But you keep on expressing in your attention what asks your attention, and you notice that whatever was in your attention and that was expressed with attention, it gives you attention, and it makes you listen to yourself. So whatever, you could say, this is the old way of expressing it. Whatever is on your mind, if you express what's on your mind, if you listen to it, it just dissolves, because you all of a sudden listen to yourself. And then you hear it, that you all of a sudden listen to yourself because you feel really good, and you sound also different, and all of a sudden there's nothing anymore attracting your attention. All of a sudden your mind is liberated, so to speak. There is no mind. There is no mind. There is no inner you. There is no inner language. But because you have used your language correctly, you all of a sudden set the record straight, and you all of a sudden realize that this mind, this chatter of whatever is in your mind, because we constantly have this seeming conversation going on inside of us. We believe that we have an inner dialogue. We believe that we are constantly thinking, and we are believing also that we constantly have involuntary language. We believe that. We believe that language occurs involuntarily inside of us. That is what we call our mind, and that mind that keeps on talking about everything that's going on, everything that is continuously, supposedly in your head. Yeah. Now you have this opinion. Now you have that feeling. Now you see this, and then you describe that in your head. Oh, that is a great tree. Oh, that is a. Oh, it's very cloudy today. Oh, it is. Maybe it's going to rain. Yeah. And supposedly you're thinking all that, and supposedly you have this involuntary language going on inside of you. But all of that is not true, because once you say it, once you pay attention to what asks your attention, once you give attention to whatever is in your attention, once you listen to it, once you say it in your own way, with your own words, in the only way that you could say it, because you don't depend on anybody else to say it for you. No, you say it to yourself. You hear yourself say it. It disappears. It was in your attention, whatever it was. Maybe it was a feeling of frustration. Maybe it was a feeling of sadness. Maybe it was a sense of anticipation, like, oh, this is going to happen. Oh, I hope that is going to happen. Or maybe it is something about other people. Very likely you are talking about I don't know, your situations with other people, maybe your friends, your family, or people that you work with, that there is a situation that occurs and that you have certain ideas about, you have certain feelings about that. And so you talk about that with yourself. You just let yourself know what the situation is, and you go totally into it. You let yourself know what is going on there according to you. And you just describe for yourself what is happening with you. And every time you do that, you come into the moment, because you listen to the sound of your voice. Yeah? You listen to the sound of your voice that is expressing what you're saying. And the sound of your voice is in the here and now. And your expression of what you're saying is also in the here and now. And so you are bringing yourself in the here and now by listening to the sound of your voice while you speak. And you pay attention to whatever was asking your attention, and then it dissolves in your attention, and then you realize, like, wow. No, and this is not a meditation, because people have called this meditation. This is not. Meditation is a nonsensical activity. This is using your language correctly. Meaning you are using your language knowingly as an overt phenomenon, which means you speak and you hear yourself. You can only hear yourself when you speak. And you can later maybe also write about this experience, and then you can write it and read it back and realize, like, wow. So language is an overt phenomenon. Language is not a covert phenomenon, an inner phenomenon. Language is not something that happens involuntarily inside of you. No, it is something that happens voluntarily because you do it. I sit here and I talk, I do it. And I hear it. You hear it. So both listening to yourself as well as talking with yourself is you could say a conscious act. Now, when I just get on my bicycle again here, I go on my bicycle again in a little while, right? It is a conscious act. No, I'm just getting on my bicycle, Don't talk about consciousness. It's just not. The consciousness is again a reference to inner stuff. I'm just getting on my bicycle and I start pedaling, and then I ride on my trip back home. So there is really no need for any reference. Oh, there are mosquitoes. I just saw one. And I am getting on my bicycle again. But don't talk about consciousness. There's no need for any reference to inner stuff. And the more you talk out loud with yourself, the more you begin to express whatever is in your attention with your attention. And anything that asks your attention is expressed, and you realize it just dissolves again and again and again. And every time that it dissolves, you feel full of energy. You feel like as if you have done yourself an enormous favor. Well, you have accomplished your embodied language. and you go on with it for a little while until your conditioning history catches up with you again, because that is bound to happen. Yeah. And so that doesn't matter. You just gotta express what is in your attention again, and you gotta sort of just let yourself listen to your own sound and hear again, oh wow, I wasn't listening. And then when you listen, you suddenly sound good. When you listen, you suddenly like it. You start to enjoy it. But when you're not listening, this is so odd. You don't like how you sound. When you're not listening, you disagree with yourself. You are troubled. You are having some kind of a struggle. Something isn't right. You're feeling negative. You're searching. You're uncertain. There's all sorts of stuff going on. But once you express that, and once you listen to that, you begin to enjoy yourself again. You begin to feel good about yourself again. And it's just amazing how every time you express what is in your attention, what asks your attention, you start to, good morning, you start to resonate again, yeah? Resonate, yeah? To resonate means you embody your language, yeah? And you hear yourself again speak. You hear yourself speak and you like what you say. And you have embodied language again, and you realize like, wow, so I can shift as often as I like, as often as I need, as often as I want, as often as I can shift from disembodied language to embodied language. Yeah. Now I have to pay attention to my legs, because my legs are itchy, because these mosquitoes, while I was sitting there, they damn well landed on me and they bit me, and my legs are totally itchy. But you know, it's not so bad, because I use it to pedal faster. Because my legs are so itchy, and then it prevents me from scratching myself, because it itches like crazy. These mosquitoes, they always come after me. Now, okay, so this was a little explanation about the shift from disembodied language to embodied language, in which you just continuously need to express whatever is in your attention, what holds your attention, what asks your attention, and then if you have described it sufficiently, you come to this point. It is almost like a kind of saturation, yeah, because you have given enough attention to what was asking your attention, and all of a sudden it dissolves. Yes, and it goes like this with anything. It can be a real problem that you describe. It can be something that's really bothering you, and maybe you start crying. Yeah, that can happen. Maybe you get very emotional, but let that happen. Let your emotion flow. Let everything that is in your attention, just let it be. And if you feel angry, maybe you need to express your anger. just scream and shout. But listen to the sound of it. Listen to the sound of it. And maybe your anger is not sounding bad. Maybe your frustration is not sounding bad. Maybe it's totally justified. And when you hear that it is justified, perhaps you suddenly feel, you're done with it. You're no longer rejecting it. You're no longer judging it, and you are actually coming into your own, because you are correct about why you are upset, or why you are frustrated, or why you are disappointed. You know that all these things can happen. And of course, it can also be something else. You know, it can also very well be that you start laughing at yourself. That's also very likely. That you say like, oh, you are just making a big deal out of everything, a big drama out of everything. We do that too, you know. So, but in any case, you just keep on expressing yourself, and you keep using your language overtly, rather than having these so-called internal dialogues with yourself, in which you are only thinking and supposedly watching your thoughts. No, you're not watching your thoughts. That's all just imaginary. Everything that you imagine about inner language is false. Yeah? There is no inner language. You don't have a mind. You don't have thoughts. Yeah? That sounds really weird to say that. But you really don't have any inner language. And therefore, you cannot have thoughts. The idea that you have thoughts, or the idea that you have ideas, that you have memories, that you have associations, all of that is just a way of talking. It's just a way of expressing language overtly. You've heard it, you've read it, and that's why you say it too. That's why you believe it. But it doesn't mean that there is inner language. No, it's just a way of talking. And that's what it has always been. And once you begin to say it and hear it, yeah, you will finally acknowledge it. You will finally say like, oh, wow. So language really is an overt phenomenon. And once I begin to fully acknowledge that my language is overt, by expressing myself, by listening to myself, and perhaps also, hopefully, by writing about this, and by, when you write it, of course, you read it as well. Yeah, then all of a sudden you really, really get it. Then you really realize that, yeah, no, it is absolutely true. Language is, was, and will always be only an overt phenomenon. That's right, yes. And so now you are going to, now you're going into a whole new way of life, actually, because your language is now used as an overt phenomenon, and because of that, it always works for you. Yeah? Because as long as you consider your language to be something inner, it doesn't work for you. You are troubled, and you are conflicted, you are tense and stressed and frustrated and negative also. But once you have acknowledged what I have acknowledged with your overt embodied language, yeah, I'm gonna leave it here. Yeah, once you have said all that, and it is very clear, then you are experiencing with your embodied language, your language enlightenment. Yeah. So now go and do this in 2025. Then hopefully in 2026 we will have this conversation with each other, okay? All right.